Hello everyone. This video is a continuation of my previous video for a pre-vehicle buyer inspection. Now in this video here I'll be moving on to the interior. And this will be just tips and tricks what to look for if you're buying a vehicle, just to see if any signs of if it could possibly be any higher mileage, or just other things to look for to make sure all options are functional within the vehicle itself. First, we want to start with here is you want to get in your vehicle that you're looking at purchasing, and you want to insert the key in the ignition and just start it to the on position, not with the vehicle actually running itself. What will happen here is you'll actually have lights which will pop up on your dash here, and usually what you want to look for is your check engine light, any emissions light, or a airbag light. Sometimes if these lights don't light up, now they won't pass any inspections depending on if it's a emissions test or a certification. Or also, this is a sign that says that somebody may have tampered with something, therefore hiding something when they're selling the vehicle. So this is something you want to keep in mind of. Just to show you how this works here, you want to turn the key on the on position here, and you can see here, now all the lights do light up here. Now you have your check engine light, your battery light, your seatbelt light, and other lights here. Now they just do turn off for a second, but just to start over with that again, turn everything off. Do the same thing again. You can see all the lights are functional. Now with regards to airbag lights, now this does depend on vehicle. All new vehicles do come with these now, but on the older models, early 90s, before the 80s, vehicles normally didn't come with airbags, so this is something you wouldn't have to worry about as an airbag light. Now another sign to look for, now say if you're looking at a lower mileage vehicle, sometimes it can be too good to be true, other times maybe not so much. People can spin the odometer back, so it's actually reading a false mileage on what the true mileage is. So things to look for extra wear on a vehicle. Usually you want to look for on is the steering wheel itself here, the driver's seat, the gas pedal, brake pedal, and if you have a manual, the clutch pedal. Now if you also have a manual, you also want to look at the manual transmission clutch handle itself, the door pull itself, and also the door latch itself, and even the armrest here sometimes. Now this does depend on the vehicle's quality, also what the vehicle was used for, but it's also something to keep in mind too. Normally with the steering wheel here you'll have a textured surface on it, so what we want to make sure is that textured surface is still somewhat there and in good condition. I know this does depend also if it's a leather wrap steering wheel or not. Now with seats itself, now you'll have cloth, leather or leatherette seats. Sometimes on the sports seats you'll have a higher bolster here, so this can wear out a little quicker than on a normal seat itself, because it does catch more when you're getting in and out of the vehicle. Other things we also want to look for too is if it's got any shiny surfaces here, which means the fabric is a little more worn out than it can be. Then you also want to look for if it's stretched in the center. This is especially known to leather or leatherette. Now moving on to the door itself here. Now when getting in and out of a vehicle, this is the first thing that's always used. Now this does depend of what the usage of the vehicle was. Maybe it was run for short distances, so it can be worn a little bit more. Normally sometimes they'll have a textured surface on here, or they'll actually have a rubberized coating, so this coating can come off, something you want to keep in mind. Other door handles here, you also want to make sure that the finish is not worn off that. And sometimes for a lot of driving, people will rest their elbows on here, and depending on what type of clothing they have on, this can wear out whatever material is on here. Some can also wear out the foam within it, so when you actually push on it, you'll actually have hollow pockets within it. Another thing you also want to move on to too is a seat belt itself. Now seat belts, they can wear out over time, and what will happen is you can usually see they'll get somewhat of a fuzzy finish on them, and not quite like a shine like this. It's more of a dull shine on it if it's been used quite a bit, so that's also something you want to keep in mind. Now moving on to your pedals here. Normally what you want to look for, these are usually rubber coated. Other times they are, these ones here are actually just a plastic, so you want to check for just uneven wear around the edges usually. What will happen depending on someone's type of sole, some soles are a little harder than others, so they will have a tendency to wear these down, especially if any on higher mileage vehicles. Same with the gas pedal here, and whenever you have a clutch pedal if you're looking at a manual vehicle. Now while we're down here, I might as well make note also is that sometimes you want to check for the floor mats too. Sometimes they will have excessive wear right in this area here. Now these are replaceable, so sometimes people will replace them just to hide them, so you can actually pull the mat up itself, and sometimes you can look at the carpet directly in this area underneath the mat, and sometimes that'll also be worn too. Now, depending what options your vehicle has, you also want to make sure that all of your windows are working if you have power windows. You want to make sure if your power door locks are working too, just to ensure that you don't have any extra costs ahead of you in repairing something. Now, for moving on to other options, you normally want to check your, it's a little harder to see on the camera here, but you normally want to check your four-way flashers to ensure they're working. Just for, if you ever have to do a safety check, you want to make sure you just want to spend the least amount of money as possible for repairs. You also want to make sure your stereo is working. Now that's just normally just something for comfort use. And you also want to make sure your climate control system is also working here. Now what we have here, if your car is equipped with air conditioning, the one you are looking at, in the summertime it is always good to check the air conditioner if it is working. Other times, during the winter, the air conditioner does have a safety on it, so it doesn't start in the winter time, so it actually won't freeze the system itself. So what you want to move on to is actually the defrost button here, and you can normally, now obviously it does depend on the vehicle itself, you'll hear the engine actually, possibly the idle change on it, or maybe you'll feel some kind of change in the vehicle itself as to how it's running when the pump is working, because AC does work for your defroster in order to get the moisture out of the air. Now moving on, you also want to make sure your horn does work. Now this is just something that's used for a safety check and for your own safety, so you will have to make sure that does work. Other things you want to make note that work is also your headlights. Possibly turn your headlights on, just take a walk around the vehicle and make sure any bulbs aren't burnt out. Now it isn't an expensive fix, but it's just something to keep in mind though. Now depending where you are located, sometimes you will need daytime running lights to pass the certification, other times you won't. It depends on what the government specifications are. This is more of a comfort control itself, but if your car is equipped with cruise control, sometimes you'll want to take your vehicle just for a quick highway speed drive, just to ensure that does work. Then also for your signals and wipers, you also want to make sure this works. Now if your vehicle does have a rear wiper, you also want to make sure that works too. This is the end of my tutorial for checking through the vehicle's interior for pre-buyer inspections. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to post them. Thank you for watching.